In fact, what are you, and first of all, I love this idea of you teaming up with Robert Kennedy.
Right.
And I love this Make America Healthy Again
Yep.
idea, because there are chemicals and ingredients in our food that are illegal in other countries because they've been shown to be toxic. There's pesticides and herbicides, and there's a lot of shit that's been sprayed on our food that really is unnecessary, and there's a lot of health consequences that people are suffering from a lot of these things.
And I brought this chart for you.
Beautiful.
Because I had a feeling you'd be asking me.
Thank
Look
you.
at this chart. These are healthier countries. Look where the United States is. I'm going to send this to RFK Jr. Look
So
at that.
this is, something along the, I was actually talking to RFK today, and he told me that more than 70% of young men are ineligible for the military because of their health.
I could see it.
That's crazy.
A lot of it's obesity.
So here's the life expectancy versus
That's it.
health expenditure.
Same chart.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
USA.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Jamie's the best.
He's very good.
He's the best.
But look at that. Look where
at
the USA is.
It's not good. And
they
that's our
spend all that
food.
money.
That's our diet. That's sedentary lifestyle. That's our diet. That's the chemicals we ingest. That's what that is.
But RFK is going to be very, I think he's a great guy.
I
think
love
he's
the
great.
fact that you guys teamed up.
Yeah, it's
and
a
are you
good
completely
combination.
committed to have him a part of your administration?
Oh, I am. But the only thing I want to be a little careful about with him is the environmental. Because, he doesn't like oil. I love oil and gas. I think
Just keep him out of
the
that.
fire. So I'm going to sort of keep him out of a little. I said, focus on health. Focus.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. But I got to be a little bit careful with the liquid gold,
I understand. But listen, there's plenty of good work that could be done if you focus on health.
Here's the one that my all-time favorite. Though.
What is that?
See the arrow right here? That's what I left.
Do
Today
you
I
have
left.
anyone that is pressuring you to not work with him? Have there been people
not
that are
work with
reaching
who?
RFK Jr.?
Yes.
Yes, I would imagine. Because
I would
financially,
say
he can put a dent.
I would say that, and I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the big pharma wasn't thrilled when they heard that, I have a relation. I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him a long time. He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy. And he's very sincere about this. I mean, he really is, he thinks we spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with, that chart is a terrible chart, the one previous. It's such a bad chart when you look at where we are compared to other countries that don't spend 10 cents.
Right.
So, and you save a lot of money. But, yeah, I've had some people that aren't exactly thrilled. You can imagine, right?
Sure.
It's a good question, actually.
Well, certainly if there
It doesn't affect me.
Some pharmaceutical drugs that have been prescribed that have negative consequences that these people have been profiting off of, and then you have a guy like RFK Jr. who spends an enormous amount of time highlighting those things. You could say how they've been
Right.
very reluctant to have you support him.
I would say that's an understatement. Yes.
Yeah. So what do you do to stop that
Well,
from
listen
getting in the
to both.
way?
Yeah, well, look, they've come up with some amazing things. I mean, I don't know how you feel. I know you're against certain vaccines, but like the polio vaccine, people had polio. It was like a disaster. And they came up, Dr. Salk, and he came up with a vaccine, and there's no polio. Now, very interesting, there hasn't been polio, but now in the Gaza Strip, can you believe that? Have you heard that? There's been a big strain of polio coming out in the Gaza Strip.
Is it vaccine-derived polio? Because, there's a strain of polio that comes directly from the vaccine, because unfortunately sometimes when you vaccinate people for polio, you actually give them polio.
I haven't heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can do is I sit down and I listen to him, and I'll give it a total. I would love him to be right, because if he's right, it's a lot less expensive, generally speaking.
There's two things that people point to when they point to the dangers of the pharmaceutical drug industry. One thing is when pharmaceutical drugs were allowed to advertise on television. We're only one of two countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical drugs to advertise on TV.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's New Zealand, but they're more restrictive than we are. People are
but
worried.
those ads, when you hear take a certain drug,
And then you hear all
and
the
then you
consequences.
say it causes cancer and
Yeah.
baldness. We don't like baldness.
Suicidal
and this
ideation.
and that and
Yeah.
eyesight, and you can lose your vision.
Yeah.
And I actually asked one of these guys, I would never take. I mean, because there's things that are so bad. They go through a whole list. I guess they save some liability, but man, I said, does that affect the purchase? And they say it really does. When there's something you have and you read, and then they go through the list of
Side effects.
the potential side. It's not
Yeah.
even the potential side effects.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are just. I asked that question. People hear that. When I hear it, I'm going to take a pass. It says, may affect your vision, may cause blindness, may this.
Yes.
But
Well, I know you're aware of Cali and Casey means, right?
yes,
Well, one of the things that they pointed out, and this is a very important thing for people to understand, is what a lot of these drugs do is they act to somehow or another mitigate the effects of poor metabolic health. But most of these problems that these people are suffering from wouldn't exist if we put an emphasis on metabolic health. If people got healthier, they started eating nutritious food and taking vitamins, a whole host of these problems that people are having would go away. And the problem with that from the pharmaceutical drug standpoint is they wouldn't be able to sell drugs to these people. And this is a
and
fear
the
that a lot of people
pesticides
have.
and things like that on the plants. And
Yeah.
what do you think of that?
It's terrible. Well, I think regenerative agriculture, unfortunately, is very difficult to scale to a point where you got a Jack in the Box on every corner.
Right, that's right.
If everybody
That's
wants
right.
food, and we have food deserts, and we have places like Los Angeles where no one's growing anything, and everything has to be shipped in, and it's very difficult to feed that many people. We've created this incredible society where we have these enormous cities, but it's very difficult to get food to these people. And then for a lot of these people in low-income areas, the only food that's available is cheap, unhealthy food.
That's right.
And we could fix that. That's if we could send $175 billion to Ukraine, we could do something to fix a lot of the health problems that the United States has. And I think it would help us as a nation overall. If you just put it out there that, hey, as a nation, we're going to make a concerted effort to get people healthier. Just put it out there, and people start making better choices.
Well, when you look at that chart, I was.
It's crazy.
They just gave me that chart because they said you may want to discuss this topic, which I know is a big topic
Yes.
for you. And when I looked at that chart and I looked at how unhealthy we are as a nation, that's a pretty big thing.
How are you so healthy? Is it golf?
No, it's genetics, I believe. You know, I'm a big
Genetics
believer.
is a big factor.
I really am. I mean, my father was.
Unfortunately, it is a big factor for health. Some people are just way more robust. But you do
Yeah.
play golf a lot, and that is exercise.
Both of my parents. For me, it's good.
Fresh air,
It really is. It's fresh air. You're
exercise.
outside.
Yeah.
Even mentally, you're focused on
Right.
that 3-footer, and for a couple of hours, you're not. And I go quick. I play fast, real fast, and I'm in, I'm out. But you know, it gives me. I was never one that could like run on a treadmill. And I can do it. You know, when passing a physical, they ask me to run on a treadmill, and then they make it steeper and steeper and steeper. And the doctor said it was at Walter Reed. They said, "It's unbelievable." I could have gone. I'm telling you, I felt I could have gone all day, but I said, "Doc, I can do this all day long. I have no problem, but it's boring to me. Do you understand?
Right.
It's just boring."
Golf's exciting.
But I did it for
Yeah.
so long. They couldn't believe it that I did it. And I never did. You know, I don't do it. I don't do it. You know, I have friends that run on this stuff all day long, but I had no problem doing it. But it's really boring. So with golf or something, you know, or tennis or whatever.
Right.
But golf, as you get older, there's something really good about it. And you have competition with your friends.
Competition,
And, you know, there's something-
concentration, focus.
And it's a great handicap sport.
And it's also a thing, I think, it cleans your mind, because when you're looking at a shot, that's all you can think of when you're executing.
It gives you a couple of hours. You know, it's interesting. Like with tennis, if you're much better than somebody, you can't really play with somebody. You know, it doesn't work. You can give them sort of the equivalent of strokes, right? But it's not the same. With golf, you can play with a lousy guy and give him a stroke a hole or 2 strokes a hole or something. You know, it's a good handicapping sport.
Right.
But it gives me a little exercise. But I haven't played in a long time. I won 32 club championships. Can
Didn't you
believe-
play right after you got shot?
No. What I did is I played with Bryson DeChambeau. Do you know Bryson?
Yes.
The pro.
Uh-huh.
He's a great player. And we played, it was a certain thing that we played, I guess called breaking 50 or something. 50 would play from a certain tee, and if you can break 50. And it got tremendous ratings. It was sort of like a crazy thing. It got he's a great guy.
But wasn't
he's
that like a couple of days after you got shot?
I don't know. I know I haven't.
That was one of the funniest
I
things. You were on the
may
golf
have.
course.
I think I did, yeah, maybe I did. But I view it very interestingly. I'm running for president of the United States. To me, it's such a big deal. It's so important. So I've
It's
gone
the
now.
biggest deal in the free world.
It's 100 times bigger than the Super Bowl, and it's one person.
Yeah.
So you're down to 2 people, and we start off at 9 billion, because you have 9 billion, they say, in the world. Who knows what that number is? But you get down to 350 million. Sadly, we have no idea what we have in this country, but let's assume it's 325, 350. And you're down to 2 people. It's the biggest thing in the world. And when I heard she took off yesterday and she took off the day before and she's going to take off tomorrow or the next day, I haven't taken a day off in 56 days. That's a long time. I haven't taken one day off. I don't want to play golf. This is too exciting. Golf is great, but this is too exciting. This is more exciting than anything you can do. And
Also, it's the home stretch.
It's the home stretch. Who would take a day off? So we have 11 days left now. And think of it. So I think I've gone 54, 55 days in a row. No days off. And I make speeches oftentimes, sometimes not, but I make speeches. And when you make a speech, and my speeches last a long time because of the weave, I weave stories into it. And if you just read a teleprompter, nobody's going to be very exciting. You got to weave it out. So but you always have to, as you say, you always have to get right back to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's no good. But the weave is very, very important. Very few weavers around, but it's a big strain on your. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You got to be careful with the voice. You can lose that voice. The voice wasn't designed. I said today. So, I made a big one last night. I was in Las Vegas. A big one the night before in Arizona. Big one. I mean, they're all big. There's never been anything like it in terms of crowd. Never been close. Never been close. They say, he talks about, crowd says, it's very interesting. So we get crowds that are really big. And I say, I've never had a story, because I don't get good press. I don't think I've had a good story in years. I really don't. I swear, I don't think you were talking about it a little bit with Oprah. Everybody loved me. I don't think, I became president of the United States. I did great the second time. I did much better. I don't want to get you in any disputes, but I won that second election so easy. And not just because of
But let me get to that. I want to talk to you about that.
But here's the thing. I did that, and now I've gotten the nomination again. And don't forget, to get these nominations, you go against very smart people. Ron DeSantis was hot. Had to go through him. Nikki Haley was hot. Had to go through her. I went through everybody. Record time, right? Record time. I got 3 nominations in a row. Won the first time, did much better the second time. I get millions of votes more the second time. And now I'm doing it a third time. And it's an incredible thing. I never get a good story. I only get bad press. Now, I will say this. It's a lot easier if you're a Democrat. If I were a Democrat,
you get a lot of positive press.
I would get a lot of positive
Yeah.
press.
No, it's a creepy, corrupt business. And the media, to a large extent, acts as a propaganda arm for the Democratic Party.
It's not even believable.
Yeah, it's bizarre to watch. And most young people, I think, are aware of it. I think most boomers still, unfortunately, read the newspapers and believe in CNN.
But it's getting younger. Let me tell you, it's getting, for us, for a conservative.
Yes.
And I consider myself a person.
It's the internet. It's because the internet's giving people information that they're not getting from anywhere else. And they like the Very Fine People hoax, the Russiagate hoax, all these different things that they've done. They tried to pin on you. That's like, it's a clear distortion of what you actually said.
The bloodbath hoax.
Yeah.
I was talking about the auto industry.
Yes.
It's a bloodbath because Japan and China are taking our auto. And I said, it's a bloodbath. They said, he used the word bloodbath.
He said, if you don't win, it's going to be a bloodbath because they're going to take over.
Right.
That's exactly what you said.
It's a terrible thing they do.
But that's the problem with propagandists, because they take things out of context, and ultimately what they do is they diminish their own credibility because people don't want to listen to them anymore because they see that they've done that and they recognize what's going on and they feel insulted. Their intelligence is getting
look
insulted.
At the ratings.
Yes.
Shows like yours. So I have a son who's very smart and tall, Barron, right? And he knows all about you. He knows about guys I never heard of. He said, Dad, you don't know how big they are. They're big. He told me how big. I said, who the hell is he? Like Ross. I did. He said, Dad, he's a great guy. I mean, guys that are doing, it's a whole new world out there.
It's a different world. And
but, I'm on TikTok now.
Congratulations.
And I've done really well. No, but the crazy, have you seen the numbers? Billions, like billions of hits. It's crazy.
I'm sure. TikTok's a wild application.
And I've
though.
gone up 30 points. A Republican is always down 30 with young people. I'm plus 30. And I'm on TikTok.
I think
it's had a huge impact.
Young people are rejecting a lot of this woke bullshit.
Yeah,
Young people
they are.
tired of being yelled at and scolded. They're tired of these people that they think are mentally ill telling them what the moral standards of society should be today. And people are upset.
There's a big difference now, but even in just a couple of years, I was shaking hands with people. They're young people.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to buck the system. You're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and that regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well, they do.
got more guys. I always say, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win, but you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
by
great?
ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him, to them, if you win? The presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary
I
in
respected
jail.
that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
No, I can't. I couldn't even imagine. You have, first of all, Secretary of State, but more importantly, the wife of the President of the United States of America going into jail. And if you ever saw, when I'd say something about her, they'd all say, I didn't say it, I never said it. They say, lock her up, lock her up. And I'd always go, take it easy, just relax, we're going to win this thing, take it easy, take it easy. And I'm telling you, I kept it down, just the opposite. Now they say, oh, Trump wanted to put her in jail. No, I saved her from going to jail. They had more stuff on her. And Comey had it, because when Comey got up, and he stupidly, because he's a stupid guy too, he's a stupid son of a bitch. He got up, Joe, and instead of saying she's innocent of all charges, he went over each charge, and each charge was a killer. And he'd go, and as far as her doing this, she's innocent. And this, and then she's only an unfair prosecutor would go. But every time you heard these charges, they sounded so bad. They were bad. And all it was is he wanted more airtime. If he would have gone up and said, I've thoroughly investigated Hillary Clinton and she's done nothing that we feel is wrong, it would have ended. Instead, he wanted to be up there because he's a PR hound. He's a hog. And he starts going through and you know what he had? They had a huge problem because FBI is great. The people there, not the top people, the people. The real people, the people that work there. It's like the real generals that I told you about that defeated ISIS in record time. The FBI guys are great. I'll bet you I'd be at 95% in the FBI.
I bet that's right.
Underneath.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. So he goes with Hillary, and instead of just saying, he goes through each charge.
Right.
And even I was saying, man, those are bad charges.
Sounds terrible because
this is before I got
with those charges.
Don't forget, this is before I got there.
Right.
Now, he was trying to protect her. But he did her a great disservice.
Because he wanted attention.
He was stupid.
So I want to talk about 2020 because you said over and over again that you were robbed in 2020.
Yeah, totally.
How do you think you were robbed? Everybody always cuts you off. I'm going to allow...
Well, they not only cut you off. Well, what I'd rather do is we'll do it another time, and I would bring in papers that you would not believe. So many different papers. That election was so crooked. It was the most crooked election.
Okay, but give me some examples of how.
Well, let's start from the top and the easy ones.
Okay.
They were supposed to get legislative approval to do the things they did, and they didn't get it. In many cases, they didn't get it.
What things?
Anything. when they
Legislative
made,
approval
like
of-
for extensions of the voting, for voting earlier, for this,
Right.
for all different things. By law, they had to get legislative approvals. You don't have to go any further than that. If you take a look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted that the election was rigged, robbed, and stolen. They wouldn't give access in certain areas to the ballots because the ballots weren't signed. They weren't originals. We could go into this stuff. We could go into the ballots, or we could go into the overall. I'll give you another one.
Are you going to present
Well,
this
let me-
ever? Like, what do you think? Like,
Let me just give you one
okay,
more
go ahead.
before. 51 intelligence agents come up that the laptop was from Russia. It turned out to be totally false. It
51
wasn't.
former intelligence agents, right?
They say that made, I don't believe it's this much, but it doesn't have to. I lost by I didn't lose, but they say I lost, Joe, they say I lost by 22,000 votes. That's like 1/10 of 1%, less than that. It's a tiny little thing. 22,000 votes spread over, that's spread over this period. So 51 intelligence agents lied. They lied. They lied. They knew it was. It was Hunter's. It was from his bed. It was Hunter's laptop. They said it was created by Russia. Russia. It was the Russia
Right.
hoax. The Russia hoax was a big hoax. It was all a big hoax. So
Well, that's
they
clear.
get Mueller.
That's one example, but that is a good
But that's a big
example.
example. They say it made a 17-point difference. That's a big example, but that's only one. And you could go into the ballots where they wouldn't give you access to the ballots. You could go into the ballot harvesting. You could go into $500 million for the lock boxes.
But just in terms of narrative, so there's two things, right? There's the Russia hoax. There's the collusion with Russia that was never proven, right? That's
Well,
one.
no, it's proven it didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But they talked about it on
But it
television.
took
as if it
2.5
was
years to prove.
But not only that, but it was a constant narrative on television. So
Sure.
that's
And-
a
and-
constant
and-
narrative that gets into people's minds, especially low information people that just watch the news,
Sure.
that you're in collusion with Russia. So that's one.
Sure.
So that changes the narrative. And then you have the 51 former intelligence agents that work with the original Twitter and get them to remove links. You can't share it on DMs. You cannot share that story. They swept that story because they said it was Russian disinformation, even though they knew it was not.
100%.
So that's two examples that are real examples. Now, anyone who considers himself a legitimate, objective observer of American politics, if you really want the best person to win, you would want people to not lie. And the only reason why they got away with this lie was because they continually labeled you as this horrible threat to democracy and Hitler.
Yeah.
They
But-
kept saying you're going to be a dictator, ignoring the fact that you weren't a dictator for the 4
Correct.
years where you were
The
actually
opposite.
the president.
I was actually the opposite of a dictator. I was a very straight guy. But look, those three things, you take those three things, each one of them by themselves causes the result to be different. Okay?
It does.
And then you can go into 100 other things. There's so many. We can't have corrupt elections, and we can't have open borders. You need to have a country. You need borders. You need fair elections. And I'll tell you the other thing you need is you need a free and fair press. One of the things I like about doing a show like this, can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show. I
She'd
would
be
try
laying
to-
on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do
wasn't
it,
gonna
and
do
I
it.
hope she does.
She's not gonna
I
do
will
it.
talk to her like a human being. I would
If
try
she
to have a
did this
conversation
kind of an
with her.
interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on. Trying to get her to express herself just as I don't know if I don't think these formats are good. I don't think that two people, first of all, I hate the idea of the presidential debates because I hate the idea of a time limitation on complex ideas. Also, you have to break.
I think you have to have the debates, though.
Right, but the way they do the debates, I think, is